So today, first of all, I'd like to apologize for the quality of my past videos. In this one, my recording on my laptop says it's 1080 ping, but I don't believe it. It doesn't look that good. I don't know, maybe it's just the lighting, but it doesn't look that good. So yeah, sorry about that. We're going to be introducing my Leopard Gecko, Ezzy, and even though she is being introduced last, she's actually the first gecko I got. I say he because not fully done growing, and I would prefer to do a gender reveal when she or he is fully grown, and that's hence the gender neutral name. This is her favorite hide to go into because, you know, it's the hardest for me to get her out of, and she knows that. Even though the humid hide would be like much more of a pain, but whatever. And I'm gonna lift the camera up so you can see her half of the 55. It's nice and spacious. It's got 3.5 hides in there. She likes to chill under the log a lot, just because it's still like semi-warm there, but not entirely. And this is her, all in her beautiful shed glory. Oh yes, focus on the beans. Oh, hi! Oh, you don't like the light on that side. So, Ezzy is a type of albino. I couldn't honestly tell you the rest of whatever morph may be in her, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know, she's a trumper, and like some people call them chocolate albinos, and like all that stuff, and it's like, I don't know what she is, because I got her from Petsmart, and they had her labeled as, well, a fancy gecko, and she's not that fancy, but so the story of how I got her is I really felt a connection to Poppy Seed over just seeing her picture on Emerald Scales. And she got taken off the website because somebody else had gotten interested in her and said they wanted to buy her. And so I'm like, no, she's gone. I have this huge 55 tank set up and like this lizard, like all of these supplies, and I'm like, my dream lizard, she gone. So I went down to Petsmart because I was feeling sad and I wanted to see if there's anything else I needed to like have during the wait or whatever, because I was going to wait until they put another leopard gecko on, because she was the last one on the site. And so I went on down to my Petsmart, the only Petsmart in my town, and they had the fancy geckos for cheaper than their normals. And I'm like, why are these guys cheaper? And she said, well, one of them has an attitude issue. And I'm like, well, let me see him. I can deal with some attitude. And so basically, I did some little bit of searching. I pulled up my Petsmart's like reviews and stuff, and under Petsmart it was like, this, under the leopard gecko review, it's like, this is not a beginner reptile. It screams and tries to bite my child. I'm like, hon, did you do your research? Like, that's what babies do. That's what baby leopard geckos do. But guess what? All babies bite and scream. That doesn't make it not a beginner reptile, hon. Or sir. Whichever, whoever is owner of that ignorant comment. And so these guys were for cheap, and I knew they're gonna sell no matter what. I think my Petsmart sells like 5 geckos every 2 months, I want to say. Either that or they're dying, which is more depressing, but I don't think they are, because I don't know. I have no proof. I can't make claims. They do better than my Petco. But so Ezzy here was the feisty one, and I'm like, I'd rather this feisty meatball come home with me than go with some kid who's like, look, the lizards are on sale, and, you know, just not live a full life. And Ezzy was a challenge because I had her for about a week, and she was not really eating, and I'm like, okay, that's expecting. And then Poppy Seed went back up on the site, and I was like, oh, and I was like, gotta get her. And I'm like, I have room for 2 geckos, I have like the stuff I need for 2 geckos. I'm like, I'm getting that second gecko. And so I did. And Ezzy was just a baby. So I wasn't, honey, I know the lights, I know. I wasn't trying to, I wasn't gonna house them together. Do you wanna go back, hon? Okay, give the camera one more good look at your fine, beautiful ass. And I didn't want to bug her too much as a baby, because she was very shy, she was very screamy and bitey, she or he. And that's still very shy. Actually, let me do an underbelly check real quick. Okay, you're all good. You all good. Go back to hiding. And I actually, it took a lot of work with her because she didn't eat for, I want to say like 2-3 weeks, and like it worried me, and I bought grub pie and she wouldn't even touch that. And right now she's in ovulation, so not brumation. She's starting to like, well, not, she's hitting puberty. It's the only way I can think of to say it, because she has those little red marks underneath that you usually get while ovulating, so I'm pretty sure it's a girl at this point. But there she is on top. And it just, I didn't want to make a video about her first, and I didn't want to get a baby at first because I was like, I want to get an adult, because I just feel that that would be better. I feel like if you are going to get your first reptile, you should get one that is not a baby at the time, because you just have less to monitor and you have less to worry about, and things won't go downhill as fast if something goes wrong. And it's very important for your first reptile that no matter what the ease on it is, when you're going into the first care of an animal, it's much easier to do when it's an adult. Like, it's much easier to go out and get a dog that is already potty trained than to get a puppy and then have to potty train it. It's just how that works. And so I had to work with her. I was trying to handle her every day, but some days she just wasn't having it. I finally got her trained to the, and sometimes she responds to that noise, and sometimes she's just not in the mood. And that's just how some leopard geckos are. And she's shy, and part of that's because she's albino, and the lights, she doesn't like lights. Like, even this morning when I just had my window open and no direct sunlight on her tank, she was still like fully dilated, little slits, like shaking her head because she just didn't like the level of light. So I'm pretty sure that when I move out, I'm going to put her in a tank that has much more hides. I'm thinking about just like giving her all of this, moving poppy seed to a 30, because poppy seed doesn't move around nearly as much, and just like let her have all of this and fill it with excavator clay, so she just has more to dig and like more to hide. And she's just not a social gecko, as where poppy seed will just like pop her head out whenever she sees me or hears me. She's like, what's going on, fam? But Ezzie's just content doing her own little thing. And if you're wondering why I'm allowing them to be in this is a fish tank divider right here. Oh, hi Poppy, you coming out? Hi! Oh my goodness. Look at her down there, just being a cutie. See, I told you she comes out when she hears me talking. But Poppy Seed can't climb this because she's missing claws from her stuck shed, and Ezzy will once in a while be like, I'm gonna go harass that girl, and will like climb over there, and then will immediately regret her decisions and just climb back over. So I don't really have to worry about her doing anything stupid to Ezzy. And I need to clean out her poop corner because she poops a lot differently. And I don't know, I don't want people, I don't think it's smart to go out and impulse buy, and I don't think it's smart to buy from a chain pet store, because you don't want to support those industries. But the problem is, those industries are still going to continue to do that, because the people who do care not to support them aren't the ones who are causing the problem. It's the people who don't know any better, and the people who do know better and don't care, because some people just see reptiles as a throwaway pet. And so that's why I got her, is because I knew somebody in my town would come and get her, and I'd rather it be me. Because she was a feisty little girl, and I wanted, at that point, something challenging, because I was like, you know what, maybe this was the universe leading me to this, and the universe was just like, nah, you're getting 2 geckos, and I'm like, okay, and I appreciate it, and I love them both equally. They both have very distinct personalities, because Ezzy will tail waggle, like, at anything. She's like, oh, that's my food? I'm mad at it. And I tried feeding her the other night some superworms, and the superworm, so these are things like nobody's gonna tell you when you, no matter how much research you do going into leopard geckos, I've learned about 2 or 3 things that nobody tells you. 1, superworms, you kind of want to squeeze them before you give them to your reptiles, because they can like spray, they'll basically defecate, and I've had it where I was trying to feed her a superworm through tweezers, and as I was putting it down, it sprayed in her eye, and it was very distraught, and this was just a few days ago, and I had to like go rinse her eye out with saline and then like rub it out with water so she didn't get any saline in her mouth, and like she was, it was extremely irritating to her because she was rubbing her face so hard on stuff that she actually scratched like the under part of her eye and like had ripped up some of the scales, and I'm like, okay, we're going to the bathroom. And another thing that nobody told me when it came to sexing was like, I was like, oh, this is the weight they usually cap off when you can tell their gender, and like I read in, it's like, oh, they don't have like the XY chromosomes. FYI, humans are like, XY chromosomes is our chromosomes. Technically, different animals will have different letters representing their chromosomes, and leopard geckos just have like the same chromosome. They're temperature sexed, but since I got it from a chain store, of course, they didn't know the temperature. The people who, it's more so the breeders that big store chains get them from that's a problem than the actual store sometimes. It's just the fact that they have to go through that big chain breeder because of corporate telling them to. So I didn't know if she was a girl or boy, and I went to go sex when she turned 45 grams, which happened 2 months ago. She's 6 months old, and I saw like the little dots, the little arrow dots that tell you the scent glands that are like above the vent that are supposed to like determine sex. And of course I'm like, oh, it's a boy, these are coming in, and like they'll get bigger with time. So I'm just like, now I'm just gonna wait for the bulge, and there was no bulge. Either that, so it's either confirmed a girl or a very masculine man, which I'm fine with either. It doesn't really matter because the personality is the same in my gecko and the care is the same. I mean, ovulation's a thing, but that's another topic. Another thing that I wasn't told right away was that you need to have those different textures in there for them to shed, and that sometimes your geckos will just decide to start peeling off their own skin before it's ready. And I've had that, and Ezzy did that last time. She like, her scales on her head are very shiny right now because she pulled her skin off before it was ready, and like she stopped halfway through probably because she realized. And nobody also tells you that an albino leopard gecko is really hard to see when they're starting to go into shed sometimes. Like, you don't really notice it until they're deep in. So that wasn't something I was prepared for either. So you just gotta realize that when you're getting into like the morphs. Like Poppy Seed, she gets dark and then she goes dusty. So like telling when your animal's about to go into shed is really important, because sometimes you do need to offer extra humidity in their enclosure if they're refusing to use their humid hide, which both my girls do. They're just little snuts in that aspect. And also, another fun fact that if you don't follow me on Instagram is all of my lizards synced up their sheds. So first, it's Poppy Seed who sheds, then it's Scott the next day, and then it's Ezzy 2 days later. So they all shed in the same week, and that's like really stressful because I'm like, if I have work, I can't be here to like supervise them and like help them get it stuck off their toes. And I like giving them about a 8 to 12 hour period to get the stuck shed off themselves, and then I step in because it's stressful, it's exhausting for them, and I don't want them losing digits. Like, Scott, I was lucky enough to get him to me with all of his claws intact, which still surprises me. And Ezzy's luckily still has all of her toes despite being housed with another semi-aggressive baby leopard gecko, because don't house your geckos together, they will bite toes and tail tips. Poppy Seed is missing some of her claws, but that's just a stuck shed problem. She's not missing any digits. But overall, you gotta be aware of these things, and some of those things you just don't know. Like, nobody told me it was gonna be harder to tell when my albino leopard gecko went into shed. Nobody told me that superworms could hurt your leopard gecko's eyes without having their heads attached anymore. Like, it's those kind of things that no amount of research, well, I guess if you, like, I did a year of research and I didn't come across those problems, so it's like, there's only so much you can do and so much you can prepare for. And then there's the not eating factor. Like, you can't, I don't recommend in any way force feeding your geckos, but sometimes they just go off feed and you have no idea why. So, but that's Ezzy. She's actually my first lizard, and then Poppy Seed came like a week or so later, and then Scott came this December, so I waited 6 months in between getting my first two, and I don't plan on getting any until I have like an actual house. And like at 19, it's gonna be a while till I get an actual house. But yeah, and so that's just Ezzy. She's somehow the awkward middle child, yet she's the youngest out of age, and she's the first one I got. She's just the awkward middle child. It's her personality. She's like, I'm gonna be first and last. That's just how she do.